Are live. Brother,
Amazing.
thank you for being my number 8 guest. Like we've done 7 podcasts so far, you're number 8. And just to remind people, the purpose of the Waking Warrior podcast is to get military veteran men on and eventually non-veterans and non-men, but really dig into the stories of our veterans and what they went through, well, maybe why they joined the military in the first place, the experiences they had in it, good and bad, the transition process that they went through, what they're doing now, and kind of how that's impacted their lives. The ideal goal that I want here is to expose a variety of different healing methods and methodologies because no one heals the same way. What works for somebody doesn't work for somebody else. And so I imagine thousands of these conversations and these podcasts where if someone comes in and say, hey, like I'm a Christian and I want to heal, like, okay, great. We got 10 conversations like that. So I'm
Sure.
introducing my wonderful friend Eero, and brother, take the stage, man. Tell the people who you are, and let's go.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, Scottie. And yes, so my name is Eero Makela. I am originally from the cold northern country of Finland, and we actually do have like a mandatory military training over there for half a year, and then you can extend that to 1 year as well, and or beyond, and depending on what your level of enthusiasm and excitement for the work itself is. Um, my current practice is in coaching and hypnotherapy. So I work as a transformational and a deep inner work coach. I have my own program as well called Vision Hacking, and that is more focused on us seeing basically your grand vision of yourself, and then hacking our way, finding different ways to work on that deep inner core. So finding your way to your heart, finding your way to your true resonance, and then like letting that to guide you wherever you need to go, and then unblocking you from all the stuff that are hindering your ability to get there. So that's a quick summary of that, and what I'm about, and I'm excited. I'm excited about your journey and Waking Warrior. It seems like a fantastic community. Veterans have so many deeply integrated like areas that they are needing to heal. So it's a beautiful mission. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here.
Dude, it's my pleasure, man. Yeah, I'd love to hear like what'd you do in the military? Like how long did you serve, and like what branch were you a part of?
So I was it was a fun time for me. There's a lot of people in Finland who kind of like detest even the military training because they just feel it's a kind of like a waste of time because it's mandatory, and like people are forced to get there. For me personally, like the beginning was quite hard. I was there for a year in total, and my basic training was at least the first couple of months like a lot of like fighting. I was fighting against the system. I was fighting against the authority, like I have always been. They wanted to cut my hair like straight away, and I was like saying like no, I like my hair just the way it is. And I was not doing exactly things the way that they were kind of like guiding us to do the basically the steps on
I'm surprised you had an option to not cut your hair. Like when I got into basic training, or at least in West Point, so West Point
Yeah.
version of basic training, man, they went straight down the middle.
Oh, they did the same to me as well. Like it was after 2 days, they were like, "Nope, you're not gonna keep that set of hair. Like you're going on the chair, and we're gonna do it for you." And it was a great kind of like introduction to okay, what have I stepped into? Because honestly, like you as a Finnish guy, girl, whatever, like you can also even females can join the military over there, but it's optional for women. And once you step there, you don't really know what to expect until you actually like get to the nitty gritty stuff that you are taught, that you are pushed to do, and it's honestly like such a healthy thing. I feel like for so many people because like these days especially like there's a lot of parents who are like especially men like fathers are very absent. Fathers are not at home taking care of their children, teaching them core things about being a man, core things about being a human being. and it's taking you away from like your core essence as a man. And that happened to me as well. I have always been very sensitive, very like, you know, I've been able to sense like energies, and I was kind of like, I felt like I needed to block that side of me completely, because of
Mm.
the way that my father presented, you know, like how I was supposed to be. And I was never embracing my emotions because of that. I was always like avoiding them a little bit. I was feeling like it's something that I shouldn't even try to acknowledge, that it was an element that my father was very practical, you know, worked in the construction business, super, you know, boxed into his world, and, you know, always needing to be right and stuff. And for me, that was a challenge. But when I got to the army, I somehow, like, first of all, people were like themselves. They couldn't avoid it. You just had such a huge color of
Oh yeah.
coloring of people, and this huge variety of personalities, and huge variety of like ways of approaching the army and stuff. And I felt that was so healthy, because there was no right or wrong anymore. There was just like, you're following orders. Yes, you're, you know, like you're put into that structure, but you're gonna do it in your own way, and your way is gonna be molded into something that, you know, is more cohesive. It is more like, you know, like is more flourishing for the teamwork itself. And
Mm.
so really, like, everyone, I felt, it's the interesting part about the army is that, yes, you were your own individual, and you were like celebrated for your individual, like, you know, abilities and talents and whatnot, but at the same time you were, like, you know, taught that we have this structure here to make you become a better human being or a better man. And there were like at least the structure in the Finnish army were really human centered. Like we had this, especially when I stepped into officer training, we were taught, for example, human leadership, which is almost like a it's a variety of like a heart mind coherence, you know, leadership methods. So basically, always, you know, seeing the potential in your subordinates, always, you know, looking at them as individuals, seeing their individual talents, and that was really impactful for me when I stepped into the officer training, which was like in a different location than I started basic training in. So I really loved it. I especially when I stepped to the officer training, that was cool shit that we were doing. Like we were like so I was in the guerrilla forces. We were doing like sabotage. We were doing
Like
bomb, like, you
special
know, bomb
forces?
explosions. Yeah, special forces basically, but
No
not
way.
not in the same way as US. I think it's a little bit different scale in a way, but we did a lot of really cool stuff. And we that like the guerrillas in the officer training, we were always the best. We were expected that we were the best. We were, like, you know, the fastest, the strongest, the, you know, most talented, most smart, the smartest. Like we
The
were
most smart.
just most smart. And like that was a great, like, it was a great, like, foundation, great, kind of like, great soil, really, to, you know, have fun with it, but at the same time take it so seriously. Like there was that
Mm.
fun, like cool element between these two spectrums, like fun and serious. And that's how we kind of like did it in the guerrilla forces. Like we won all the competitions, and we pushed ourselves to the extreme. We had like hikes with like 50 kilograms like backpacks, and we walked like 200 kilometers, like, you know, in one go for 3 days, and all kinds of crazy ass stuff, like in the forest. Like we were spending like weeks in the forest, and I really loved that part, because it was like pushing me to the extremes, and allowing me to also investigate like stuff inside of myself. How can I take this? How can I take like these challenges of like being such a long time in the forest, for example, surviving. So
Mhm.
so loved it, loved it.
That's super interesting because like when there's this identity crisis that I feel like we face when we get out of the military, but it sounds like you
Mm-hmm.
actually started to find yourself when you got into the military.
Yes, yes. Because I had struggled with my identity for such a long time. Like my whole youth I was jumping between this spectrum of being super sensitive and sometimes even overly sensitive, and then this like the kind of like the I would say the spectrum of being that my father was trying to push me towards, which was more like this hyper masculine in a way, hyper masculine way
Mhm.
of being, not approaching emotions, being very very stoic, very stern, super practical, and so on. So I was like, my origin was like creative and sensitive, and then like I was guided to be the opposite in a way. So I was battling between these two, and then like then during the army somehow, like, yes, it was definitely like the structure and everything made it extremely masculine, but there were like a lot of exciting, fun, joyful parts ingrained in it as
Mm.
well, that allowed then again like my creativity to flourish. So there were like some challenges and whatnot, and you needed to use your smarts. So that was always like fun for me, because then I could like get into this state where I didn't have any limitations. I was just like playing around and seeing where it gets me. So
Mm.
yeah, fun stuff.
Dude, that's great, man. I think like in general, the Nordic countries have a much more balanced view of masculinity and society in general. And
Yeah,
so like if you just take the prison system as an example, in America is like we're gonna throw you in and you're kind of marked. But I feel like the Nordic
yes,
countries try to rehabilitate you. Is that
yeah,
and that's kind of
there's
their
more of
focus.
that. Yeah,
And so
I
I
have
guess
heard the
maybe
same. Yeah.
yeah, it's like it sounds like the emphasis on human leadership within the officer corps in the
Mhm.
Finnish army, for example, probably has a much more holistic, healthy way of looking at things and leading in general. So do
Yes.
you think that the like is there do you know if there's an equally high rate of PTSD, anxiety, depression, and suicide among Finnish soldiers as there are in the US Army?
I don't believe so. I first of all, I don't believe that the placements are as radical. Like the Finnish core is definitely put into, like, the placements are more into Peace Corps. Like you're going just to maintain the peace somewhere. So it's of course, like, you always have the option to go into more extreme like environments as well, but it's not enforced. It's not like, okay, we got a war coming, like we're not really like pushing people to go to war in a way. But of course, like, we got people going to Afghanistan, we got people going to wherever around the world where there is conflict, and but I haven't actually heard anyone really in Finland that has like PTSD. But of course it exists, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think? I mean, what do you think is some of the challenges or are some of the challenges that are facing soldiers once they get out? And yeah, so like, let's talk about the transition first, and then we can talk about all the PTSD stuff. So like you get
Yeah.
in, you formulate some of your identity, but also your identity was sort of broken down to fit into the overall identity of the army. And
Yeah.
what happened when you got out? What was that process like?
Honestly, for me it was relatively easy, because in the army I had kind of like, I had found my way of masculinity that suited me quite well, and it was a mix of kind of like, okay, I'm like with the human leadership training, like, I'm a human leader. I was approaching all of my subordinates when I was going through my, like, after the officer training, you're basically like taken back to the basic training camp, or the basic training, like, regimen in a way, and then you are given a team. And then, like, I had, for example, a team of like 20 guerrilla like radio troopers, and these guys were like freakishly smart. They were like, a group of uh like very carefully selected and tested guys who had like the wits, and they had more like physical ability as well. They were epic dudes. So I was like extremely lucky with what I was working with, but at the same time I needed to display like a very strict like level of authority, and I felt like, okay, like, what, like, who am I to like do this,
Yeah.
because I was the same as those guys. But then, like, I found this weird like power inside of me that, okay, I can do this. I am extremely powerful, and I stepped into like the status of authority like quite easily in a way, and really coming out of army was like this moment of embracing, like, okay, I got my masculine, I'm very comfortable with my masculine, but then like I feel like I need to dive also deeper into my feminine energy and see like, okay, what is there that has been maybe avoided or not acknowledged for a long time, and what can I find there so that I can be more whole in a way. So that was kind of like a long transition of like 10 years after coming out of the army, of like, seeing like, okay, what does that look like, and really nothing came together because I had a lot of trust wounds. I had like my heart has like had a wall in front of it because I had like a lot of trust issues because of one experience with a breakup, like early age in my when I was 16, and then I got like completely scammed. I was manipulated by a certain man that I thought was my best friend, but really he was just a sociopath when I was like 17, and he borrowed me like such a huge amount of money. I don't even want to go there, but that really like created such a big wall inside in front of my heart. So really like my that wall like stuck to me and was existing inside of me before I started my spiritual journey then again. So that was
Mhm.
only 3 years ago when I really launched into that, and everything changed when I did that. So I had definitely, like, after the army, I had like gotten comfortable with, okay, it's okay to have the wall inside like in front of my heart, and it's just everyday stuff, like I don't even know what it is, but I felt it every day, but I just couldn't get away from it, like it was there for a reason, and the reason was for me to start my nomad life at one point in my life, and then jump to ayahuasca and peyote and all the
Oh
plant
yeah,
medicine. So yeah.
yeah. That's
Everything
how
has a
that's how we
reason.
met.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that's
that's.
right,
I mean,
that's
we
right.
we met through we originally met through a men's group, I think, right?
Originally I think it was the like music festival that we went to together, and you were
Oh,
you were
that's right.
supporting
That's right.
people. Yes, yeah, yeah,
Oh
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. We were
You were
doing. Yeah, that's
creating
right. With
sacred
Scottie.
spaces for others already in the in the spectrum of music festivals, and that
Dude,
was
that
a
was
really
wild.
cool thing to see.
Yeah, so for those that don't know, like both Eero and I are in the spiritual healing plant medicine psychedelic community. So I mean at this point, by the
Absolutely.
time I'd gone to that music festival with you, it was like really hard techno or something, like not my style. I was like, oh, whatever.
Yes, it
And
was insane, but we made we had a good time though. We had a really good time.
yeah, we can't be too spiritual. I'm curious, could you explain, like when you're talking about like masculine and feminine, like a lot of
Mhm,
people don't really understand what that means. Can you tell me
mhm.
what that means to you and maybe the balance of energies and just talking a little bit more about that?
Sure. Yeah, no, I work with this with a lot of people. Like so in my coaching practice, I work a lot with balancing basic polarities, and there's a lot of polarities, in the world. There's hot and cold. There's hard and soft, and then there's masculine and feminine, and I work in the harmonizing business. I harmonize like these energies for people, and I really like that. That is one of the most core efforts that you can do if you want to access your spirituality more, I feel, and your spiritual self, and really with masculine and feminine. So masculine functions as a very like conscious energy. It's super conscious. It's based on form, it's based on structure, and it's based on direction. So you have basically like a clear set idea. Okay, this is where I'm going. I need to set a goal. I need to plan the way how to get there. So it's a lot to do with like this conscious thinking energy in a way. And then for the feminine, then again, it's about the body, like it's about the formlessness and the emotive ability of a human being to like go through different kinds of scenarios in your life, and trusting your emotions to take you to the right place. And so if you have the like consciousness of the masculine, then really for me personally, the feminine is kind of like the primal like life force energy that is surging inside of all of us, and the wisdom also that comes from that. So the core wisdom that we have, all of us inside of us, it's through accessing the heart, through accessing the body and the wisdom that we have. Because like going to, for example, the trauma, like PTSD, whatever, I have dealt with many people who have a lot of like very, very insane ass level traumas, not from army, but like from other areas, like for example abusive parents, being mentally abused by someone for such a long time, be it relationships or also parents. And it takes a person to a state where their nervous system is highly regulated. It takes a person to a state where their body doesn't feel safe, even though everything is safe around them. So there's not just the trust issues, but something, anything else that is kind of like just helping them to avoid the emotions that they have inside of themselves. So trauma exists in the body. It's kind of like, I always relate it to like this conscious energy that exists in the body, and it's kind of like stuck there. And when some event comes up that is triggering that certain part, then the part kind of like starts, becoming stronger and becoming more emphasized. And then you feel like, oh shit, like, okay, what is that? Like, I feel drained. I feel, like stressed. I feel angry. I feel, frustrated, whatever. And then really like then the feminine energy like comes into play. You need to play with your feminine to become more aware of what that trauma is actually trying to say, what that energy is trying to say. What does it look like? What does it feel like? Where is it from? What is the roots? Because if we don't like take the lessons from this energy, then you'll never be able to heal it. You need to acknowledge it, embrace it. You need to feel it. You need to allow the feeling to guide you to release it as well. So releasing the emotion itself, like away from the body. So all of these are core, but then using your masculine consciousness to really like, then play with the different elements regarding the trauma is I feel extremely important.
Yeah. So you mentioned like trauma almost as a messenger in
Yes.
essence.
Absolutely. Yes. Always. Any wound, any trauma, any wound, anything that you have experienced in your life it's your gift. And it becomes your gift only when you start listening to it. But if you fight it, and if you avoid it, and if you don't like pay attention to it, put your focus on it, then it's gonna stay there. That conscious energy is gonna stay there, and it's gonna stay stuck. It's not gonna go anywhere. It's not gonna it's not being allowed to move, and it needs to move inside your body. So this is another like spectrum which we work with with some of my clients, where basically the trauma first exists, for example, somewhere on the, let's say, the right side of your solar plexus, or your abdomen. And then it starts moving. First it goes to the first it starts moving after we've done some practices. It moves to your heart, and then after the same energy can be somehow like locked in your throat. And then all of these like different movements inside your body with the same trauma is actually just proving this idea that, hey, there's different parts inside of us, almost like living conscious like parts inside of us, and they're moving based on the progression of how well you have healed. And then like as you have healed more and more and more, as you said, the messenger is also always giving you these cues on where to go next. But if you don't pay attention to it, it's going to just stay stuck in that one area, and it's not going to move anywhere.
Yeah, so there's like, I mean, this is very like, this is digging into a lot of like indigenous and maybe even Eastern methodology around healing and effects on the body. So like there's kind of a micro level, and the micro level is like, okay, where is this feeling that's sticking with me that is negative, to describe it one way?
Yes.
Where is that? And like, is it in my solar plexus? Is that like the root of my energy or my emotions? Am I not processing something? Or is it in my throat? Is like, am I trying to communicate something that I can't communicate? So like, sounds like the direction of the location of the trauma, or the feeling or the energy, can give you an indication as to what it's trying to help you with or bring attention to. Yeah.
Yes.
And then at the macro level, like you mentioned, kind of like, it's almost like the fight or flight, right? I mean, it seems like when
Mm,
you're a lot of people that I deal with that are heavily affected by PTSD, it's like they're constantly in fight or flight mode. And so like
yeah.
the body's natural system is like, okay, well, if I see a bear in the woods, I want to be able to run. And so my adrenaline is up, my cortisol is up, like boom, the
Yes.
digestive processes stop. I can run from this bear. And I guess the
Yes.
problem is that we're maybe experiencing, and correct me where I'm wrong or what you think about this, but it's
Yeah.
like with PTSD and these traumas that don't get resolved, we become in a state where we're always in fight or flight mode, always
Yes.
in that state. And that has really, really negative effects on the body over time.
Yeah, and that's exactly when the trauma is like when we avoid it or fight it. Usually we fight it. Like when we're men, we fight the energy in a way. We kind of like we can also like just sweep it under the rug and we go like, okay, no, we're not gonna touch that. Or we can go like, I hate that energy. I hate like how I'm feeling. I hate that. Like I hate feeling. Like this is the
Mm.
normal response of men, which are like, even diving into like topics like stoicism or being like stoic and being like a very very aware man and stuff like that. You're still like not embracing it. You're kind of like saying that no, that feeling doesn't exist. That feeling is not relevant. Or I hate that energy. I hate that feeling, and I'm not gonna like acknowledge it because I'm hating it so much. So this fighting and avoiding is kind of like not allowing the energy to go out of the body, and then the nervous system is stuck with these responses of fight or flight or freeze or fawn. And this is the state where the nervous system feels like I am not safe, I am not loved, I am not cared for, um, I'm not open for other people to even enter my field. I'm not open to other people to be trusted. I'm not open to other people be even loved. Receiving love, giving love is impossible if your nervous system is saying that no, like I'm not ready. I'm still in this same state because like the messages have been like saying all the time, like, hey, take a look at over here, but you're not listening to them. So the nervous system is your another signal. It's such an important signal to recognize and to be aware of that. Hey, if your nervous system is irregulated, it means that you have simply not decided to heal. You have simply not decided to listen to the cues of the body. And
Mm.
it's so important to remember how much it impacts not just yourself but the people around you when you decide to take on the healing journey. So the
So
macro
like,
level.
what is that? What effects does it have in people's lives then if they're not healing? Because like a lot of people will listen to this like, I don't know about the energy stuff, like
Yeah.
this is pretty common, right?
For sure, for
Um,
sure.
and obviously you and I are in pretty violent agreement on this. But
Yes.
like if someone is listening to this and they're not sure, like what effects does it have on the body, the mind, the spirit, on your life if you
Mm.
don't deal with this stuff? Like how can you identify someone that maybe is traumatized but not dealing with it or healing?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a really important question. And people don't really identify like what the effects of healing are before they have done it. Like they don't really understand. They see this topic of healing and going into your emotions and even going into those memories. Like really, like the best healing happens when you go to the memory itself, the roots, the original root cause, and you take a look at it from like just an awareness point of view. You just see it, you just witness the memory, but you don't necessarily go to the feelings if you don't want to. You can also tune into the feelings themselves and feel the feelings in your body so that you can release it. But really, like a very healthy practice is to just look at the memory from a distance, like almost like you're on a hilltop and you're looking down on a city. So on the same metaphorical level, you're looking down on your memory with your consciousness, and you're just seeing what happened over there, and then you're able to see the lessons, what basically like you could integrate from that. And
Mm.
so from the trauma that is the memory itself, the memory exists in your body as energy, whatever you want to call it. It's a feeling, it's an emotion that's stuck in your body in a way. And so when you display the awareness, like the light of awareness into the memory itself, which is the traumatic memory, you are actually gaining insight from it. So you're able to step into just this like outer, evaluator and the healer at the same time, who's able to see that, okay, I need to pay attention to this. I need to see like what is underneath all of this anger, what is underneath all of this pain that I feel, and go like, I have the ability to look at it with my heart. I have the ability to look at it with compassion and see that those people who were involved, first of all, they were hurt. They were confused. They didn't know what they were doing. Most of the time, the people who are causing pain to another person, they don't know what they're doing. They are completely unconscious of what they're doing. They simply are like, they are reflecting their own trauma and their own pain to the person who is the subject in a way, or the object, and which is you. So really like having the ability to step into compassion and taking the different learnings from the memory is allowing that trauma and that like energy to be not only to be released, or you can be free of it, so you can find peace inside of yourself, but you can also become like more powerful, more insightful, more wise, because you have actually decided to integrate that as a part of who you are instead of avoiding it. So you embrace it. You take it into who you are, and then it is not anymore controlling you. It is not anymore like causing turbulence in your nervous system, or it's not anymore like causing these weird thoughts that are keeping, constantly like these stories that are telling you that you're not enough, like you are less, you are not loved, whatever it is. These stories start to slowly go away because you have decided to heal, and you have decided to like take the learnings from the lessons from the experience itself.
So maybe like some of those impacts on people's lives, like if they're feeling a lack of peace, they're feeling anger, they're feeling anxiety or depression or negative thought patterns, or in many cases chronic health symptoms. Would you classify those as possible symptoms of not dealing with trauma?
Yes. Anything that is causing turbulence for you, be it in your mind, as in you can't let go of certain, thought patterns, for example, or you have like your nervous system like being triggered constantly for different reasons. Either for PTSD, what I've studied so far, it can be as simple as having a bright light being like shown into your face, because it's bringing you back that memory of like someone shoving for example a flashlight in your face, and then like that triggering a certain memory inside your body. And it can be so many different things, but we need to go through every memory, every period, and it hurts. It hurts to go back. Sometimes it hurts to go back, but you need to be willing to accept it and see it from a higher perspective. This can be very hard when it comes to war, because war is so gruesome, war is so ugly. It's like people have let go of their humanity basically. But I feel that the key with trauma, no matter how awful it is to actually step back into your humanity and remember that you are human. As long as you don't as long as you don't do anything with this, you're going to be less than a human. You're going to be less connected with yourself. You're going to be less connected with others. You're going to be less connected with the world. And that really is the sad part. And it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work. It's good to recognize that there's no shortcut. There is no shortcut ever. You need to do the hard work. You need to step into practices like and I know many people will go like, okay, if I say meditation, they will go like, no, I can't do meditation. But really like closing your eyes and starting to listen to your emotions, starting to listen to what is going on in your body is one of the most core practices that you can do to heal.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's also kind of like I haven't done a whole lot of research on the Stoics, but I think the Stoicism is often interpreted as like this idea of compartmentalizing everything. But I think Stoicism is also about like noticing and being the master of your emotions, and you can't be the master of whatever you don't notice. Right. So it's this idea of like, when people think of like masculinity, they might think of in the Stoic sense, like Marcus Aurelius. But Marcus Aurelius was like a really deeply in touch with himself guy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely get a lot of kickback when I talk about like you said, meditation or like any of these practices that feel like frou-frou or like whatever
Uh-huh.
to the soldiers that are coming as like, no, I'm a warrior, man. It's like, well, actually,
Hmm.
like warriors did this,
Yes.
like I think that
Hmm.
the most effective way to be a true warrior is to be like in touch with yourself and like in touch with
Yes.
others. And it doesn't mean that you
Hmm.
don't do hard things. That's actually something that you did recently, right? So you talked about some of your initiation rites with the Finnish army, right? The long ruck marches, the many weeks spent in the woods. Wasn't it last year or the earlier this year you did your first vision quest?
Yes, it was. It was. It was. And that was gorgeous. And I love all of these initiation rituals because they are just like guiding you from such different angles to test your limits and to see like, okay, what comes up? What comes up when you try this? What comes up when you experiment with yourself and with this world that we exist in? Um, but yeah, Vision Quest was absolutely beautiful. And I just want to mention about the meditation and
Yeah.
these kind of like this stuff about like going into your memories and whatnot. um, an important part about it is that you're able to change the narrative as well, because when you're able to look at it from a different angle, then the narrative in your head also needs to be changed. It needs to be done like synchronously. So the mindset that you have and the narrative that you have, if you don't change that as you do your practices with going into your memories, and embracing the emotions that come up with that expression, then you're not going to be basically you're doing half the work only. So if you're just looking at the memories and not reframing with compassion and
Mhm.
empowerment, for example. But the meditation is an interesting topic. I do lots of meditation, group meditation, for example, for people, and I obviously guide in my work to people to go deep into their emotions and their subconscious. And the thing about that is that there's so many ways of getting there. There's so many ways of meditating. It's not just like sitting down cross-legged and trying to shut down your thoughts. Usually I say that don't ever do that in the beginning for many people,
Mhm.
because they are getting lost in that idea of you need to like let go of the thoughts, because when you let go of the thoughts, then you're letting go of the whole core idea of the practice, which is to get to know you better, yourself better. So usually I guide people to like somatic practices. So like this can be done, for example, when you're just standing up and you just start tuning into, like if you do the memory practice, for example, you go to the memory and then you start feeling it somewhere in your body. You do it proactively, and then you start feeling it's your body, and then you start feeling it in your body, and you start moving that energy, like ripping it out, for example, or swooshing it like somehow, or kind of like allowing it to basically like move that energy, whatever it is. So with movements, this is a meditative practice. uh, we become more aware of what is going on, and that's the key to meditation. No matter what meditation it is, walking meditation, somatic, like body awareness exercises, silence meditation, breathing exercises, all of these are just to get you to a different state of awareness. And the
Mhm.
more you build that muscle, it kind of like comes from like we start over here where there's like 1,000 thoughts, or like our nervous system is extremely triggered and like anxious and stuff. And then you start building that awareness slowly, and it starts slowing down. And when it starts slowing down, the more you do the practices, the more you get space for that awareness to exist, and that awareness to basically like see also when you get triggered. Like usually people lose their awareness completely when they get triggered. They lose
Mhm.
their sense of themselves. They lose the sense of like what situation they're even in. Like their nervous system like creates this block between like the awareness and then their kind of like conscious self, or kind of like not conscious self but unconscious self. In a way, they become completely unconscious when they get triggered and get into anger, for example, and they can't control themselves. The words they say, the actions they take, all of these things, they are completely coming out of that subconscious state. And you mentioned something about stoics, and the interesting part about stoicism is that the origin of Stoicism in the Roman Empire, for example, like it was a philosophy that was embraced by the warriors and the mystics and the philosophers, and there was a lot of mysticism connected to it as well. Like Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, for example, you don't get a lot of this mysticism from it, but they're like the Roman gods, for example, were a big part of Stoicism. It was a big part of the fact that we are practicing Stoicism with the help of our gods. And this is another complete other level, like bringing in higher power to your trauma healing. That's like then you access like the true level of unconditional love, and you're accessing like a way more grander perspective to the topic of
Mm.
healing, because then there's nothing you can't heal when you accept the light of God in you. And that's a whole nother topic. We don't need to go there because that's so distant for so many people. But yeah.
Yeah, no, it reminds me a lot of like the Bushido code and connection with Zen Buddhism among the samurai
Yeah.
warrior class in ancient
Yeah.
Japan. You
Absolutely.
know, it kind of had a similar idea. You know, it's possible to be a warrior that's calm and composed and is in touch with everything around him and aware and conscious, but also will lop somebody's head off.
That's right.
You know,
Yes.
yeah, this again, the balance between the masculine and the feminine, right? Now
Hmm.
just applied to a warrior. That's at the end of the day what I'm trying to get to with Waking Warriors, this idea that we are awakening, becoming more conscious. And it doesn't mean that we're not warriors anymore, but we're just warriors in a different sense.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And the
Yeah,
Stoicism
that's
plays.
a whole
Yeah.
gold there, man.
The Stoicism is an interesting, like, idea to integrate into that. Like, yes, like becoming more aware of your thoughts and your emotions. That's a very key practice for men, I feel, no matter what. But then if you're not paying attention to the emotions at all, as a like almost like a uh, like as a result of going into Stoicism, then you become lost, because really, like Marcus Aurelius, like whoever, like philosopher Seneca, like these guys were, they were processing their emotions, like, behind the curtain. They were like handling their emotions behind the curtain, and they didn't necessarily like allow their emotions to control them when they were in situations where they needed to make tough decisions, or they needed to basically control like a whole army or something like that. But they were able to like take a step back in their consciousness and go like, okay, I see you. I see where this body is kind of like taking me to, or these thoughts are taking me to, and I'm not allowing those to like control the situation and um, like tell me to do bad decisions, for example. And this is the tough part with the nervous system, because if the nervous system is completely dysregulated, then the consciousness is so away. It hasn't been. It's like in this state, like I was explaining at one point. So like the practices are such a core part of it. Like be it breath work, like start with something active. That's what I recommend for all men. Always start with something active. Breath work, movement, like, well, dancing will again sound a little bit off for some, but some movements, like this can be warrior movement as well. I do this a lot for myself, like when I wake up and I listen to, for example, like when I start my gym session, I put on certain, like, very high, like I actually put like very often I put Viking music. I put this like
Mm.
drumming music, and then I connect with my warrior a little bit, and then I tune into my gym self. Like, now it's time to, like, put on weight, and now it's time to like put all of my effort into this one task, and that's it. I'm here. I'm present. I'm now. I'm not going anywhere. Like anywhere else at the same time.
Mm. That's a beautiful example. I sort of imagine you woke up to like the Gladiator theme song.
Oh, I
Like,
done that as well. That's good stuff.
yeah, man.
Yes.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I'm curious, like, so you after you got out of the army, 10 years, you were kind of finding yourself, and you've only been in the sort of the healing spiritual path for 3 years. What prompted that change? What was going on in your life that drew you to energy and spirituality and healing work?
Well, I was an atheist for a very long time. I was actually one of those guys who had a Christian like friend, and back in the day when I was younger in college, and we debated on so many different things, and I was always relating to like facts and science and evolution and all that sort of stuff, and I was always finding my way to basically prove that I'm right, because I always needed to be right. That's from my dad. Thanks so much,
Yeah,
Dad.
it's a
uh,
religion in itself, isn't it?
it is, and so then I kind of like, when I started my nomad life, I went to Mexico first, and I went to Puerto Escondido. We did some surfing and stuff with a friend of mine, and then I ended up going to Playa del Carmen, and over there I had already like one person who was recommended to me, like a shaman. And I didn't really like, I had no idea what ayahuasca was. I had no expectations. I had no idea like what I want to experience even. But so many people said that, or so many people that I met during Playa del Carmen in just a couple of weeks said that, okay, like you should go. And for some reason, like I wasn't even on this kind of like journey yet, where basically these days I believe that, okay, if someone, like if something comes up many times, then it's a clear sign for me that, okay, I need to go there. I need to like do something with this. At that time I was just like, okay, fine, I'm gonna experiment. I'm gonna give it a shot. I'm gonna see like what comes up. I went to the ceremony, and I took some mother ayahuasca into my body. And first I was thinking, okay, nothing is gonna come up, because I was like 1 hour in and nothing was going on. And then all of a sudden, poof! I launched into the stratosphere, and I had so many beautiful experiences. I was embraced by this uh, like energy, like this grandmother. I was seeing this vision of a grandmother being behind me, and it was all green. Everything was like green energy and embracing me, and I started crying and crying and crying. I didn't know like what was going on, but I realized now it was like Mother Earth or ayahuasca. I don't know which one, but embracing me. And I was feeling this surge of emotions like going on inside of my body, and that launched into me this debate inside of me regarding my feminine and masculine energy. Is like, okay, like what is really going on inside of me, like as a sexual being. And then I had a lot of other openings. I don't remember like most of them anymore, but I was like I touched this like really raw power part of me as well during the ceremony, where I was like sensing this like super powerful dark energy like just coming over me, and I couldn't control it. And I just felt like I needed to move when everyone else was like lying down or something like that. I just like woke up and I started moving, and I was like pacing, and I was going around, and I was making these like gruntle noises. And all of a sudden my arms started looking like a gorilla's arms. And the gorilla's arms were like I was feeling into that somehow. And all of a sudden I started embodying a gorilla, and I was going around like a gorilla. And it was an insane experience. Like it was on so many different levels. I saw at one point, I was looking around, it was like still like light outside, so I could see the others. I could see the auras of other people. Like I could see this one guy who had like a very white this orish, like thingy like around his body in a way. And then I saw one guy having like this yellow hints, of energy around him. And it was such an interesting experience, and such a deep exploration of who I was and what I can do, really. Like, and after that, I haven't been the same. I have been jumping from one ceremony to another, to peyote, to bufo, to like San Pedro, to everything that I could find my hands on, really. Like I've been trying. I was 1 year I was like obsessive about this shamanic journey, and I absolutely loved it. And then I let go of medicines, and nowadays I only do shrooms like here and there.
I'm still very much in the medicines. Yeah, it's really interesting. So for those that don't know, a lot of the medicines that Eero just talked about, like ayahuasca, is a very powerful. It's a vine containing DMT and the leaf of a plant that activates as an MAO inhibitor that allows the body to absorb the DMT. So that's been used by in shamanic rituals for many thousands of years here in the Amazon and other places. You mentioned peyote, which is a mescaline-containing cactus, little itty-bitty guy that's been used by shamanic tribes and traditions all the way in the north down to Mexico. You mentioned San Pedro, which is another cousin of the peyote, which is also a mescaline plant, different alkaloids. You mentioned bufo, which is 5-MeO DMT, scraped off of jungle frog. So yeah, what we're talking about here, for those that are not aware, are really, really powerful psychedelic medicines that have been used to connect ourselves, um, understand about ourselves and the world, connect with others, heal trauma, that sort of thing. And it's one of many different healing modalities that exist. So it's one way of doing things, and it's you could do just plant medicines, you could do plant medicines in combination with other things, and so that's a little bit of the background. And so you're saying that you've moved away from plant medicine. Like
Yeah.
why? What was that transition? Why did you make that transition? Like what called you away from that?
For me personally, I first of all, I enjoy this shamanic journey so much because it's a very feminine journey, really. Like, and what I mean by femininity is that it's going into your body. It's like it's all about your body and expanding your consciousness, and that kind of like the consciousness part kind of like, you know, wraps around the masculinity side as well. So it is such a strong combination of harmonizing and like building coherence between these two parts, like the masculine and the feminine, as we were talking before. And with ayahuasca, for example, like I remember like after the ceremony, for example, my first ceremony, that I started writing and journaling like the next day, like for hours and hours and hours. And I just felt like I needed to like remember everything. I needed to remember like every small detail to the smallest of breadcrumbs in a way. And because I was still my skeptics, like my skeptic side was still coming up and saying, okay, your subconscious is unreal. Like, did my subconscious really create all of that stuff? That was like the science side of me saying that, okay, yeah, like I can prove all of this stuff. I can prove, you know, like what just happened. Okay, I started reading on ayahuasca. I started reading on, you know, like everything, and there was like still that skeptic and that like doubt and that everything, and it was saying that nope, it wasn't real. It wasn't like, it's just your subconscious, nothing more. But then I started going like, but how? Like, how does my subconscious show me like these beings and entities of like loving energy and raw power, and like jumping between these two, and then like having a gorilla, like what does the gorilla mean? And it was too many things that I needed to like find answers to. And then I just, at one point, like maybe 3 months after, I gave up, and I was like, okay, I surrender to this spiritual path. And it took a lot of convincing inside of myself to get there. But then after the 3 months, I took the peyote ceremony, and then like I continued. But after that exploration of 1 year, I felt like I had gotten enough from the medicine. I feel like they are amazing teachers. They are showing your truth. They are showing like your heart's wanting. They are showing what you need, and it's such a powerful thing to like go on this journey with them, because for many people, they can go to vipassanas and they can go to like all these meditation practices, and they still don't progress. They still don't go further. And with medicines, I feel like sometimes I have related to medicines being like a shortcut, as in like you take these extremely intelligent, conscious, you know, plants inside of yourself, and then you allow them to work on you or work with you. And it's such a beautiful experience, and it can speed forward, I feel like, many people's traumas, and like healing many people's traumas, healing themselves and whatnot. But once you have like gotten enough insights, I feel it's healthy to let them go as well. Because if you still go like to another ceremony and another ceremony and another ceremony, then you haven't yet accepted that you are kind of like, you are the light. I can't say it in any other way. because as long as you're jumping from one ceremony to another, I feel like you're searching for the light. You're searching for like that glimpse of unconditional love again, because you know that you have experienced in plant medicine ceremonies. You go in search for another reason to exist. You go in search for some kind of an insight for your work. You go to search for another like idea of who you are at your core, for example. And once you have gotten, I feel like, enough insights, then stopping and allowing the wisdom to come from you, because you are the medicine, you are the wisdom, you are like everything exists inside of yourself already. Then you are allowed to exist as the light. You are not anymore searching for the light. You are existing. You are being the light, and that's like I feel a state where you meditate and you can burst out in laughter and crying at random, and you can meditate and you just feel at peace. And even in your everyday state, you just feel like you're more compassionate. You have accessed that love, and you have integrated it as a part of who you are.
Yeah, which is the idea of like when we talk about integration, it's this idea of doing the work and changing habits or behaviors in our lives based on the information we receive from the medicine or
Yeah.
meditation or what have you. Yeah, for people that are hearing this, they're like, these guys are crazy. Like, it does sound crazy to like a
Yes.
traditional Western way of being in consciousness. You know, we've like really emphasized one way of being in consciousness, you know, hopped up on caffeine and very productive and very like right brain, like thinking.
That's right.
And so I guess what we're talking about here is just a way of being that's more connected and more in tune with who we are as animals and people and humans, and connected with everything else around us. So if you're hearing this and you think we're crazy, I would recommend you might try one of these medicines, and then listen to this again and see if you resonate with anything out of it.
But this is actually a very interesting topic that you're mentioning here. What is crazy? You know, like, are you? Hold on a second. Are you crazy because you are continuing on repeating your same patterns again and again and again, and nothing is working out, and you're not healing, and you're not like becoming more conscious, you're not like becoming more kinder to your fellow human beings, you're not being kinder to yourself. You keep on believing the governments, you keep on not believing governments and fighting the governments, and you're basically like a part of the system, but like when you are even fighting the system, you're a part of another system. And so really, like, for me personally, like, our crazy is being free. Our crazy is being just aware, and our crazy is like okay, like the plant medicines have given us so many beautiful insights, but we are here now, like allowing our own intuition and our guidance to set the path, not the idea of someone else, or the idea of the culture, or the idea of the paradigms of the system, in a way. So it's kind of like embracing our truth instead of the truth of others. That is the level of crazy that we're talking here.
Yeah, determining for yourself what is true.
Yes.
And there's a lot of other stuff that you can do in combination with or instead of plant medicine. So for example, now that you've gone into the more somatic kind of your own, you are the medicine, like this vision quest kind of comes up again, right? So the vision quest, for those that don't know about it, is a part of the red path. That's what we call the red path, which is a lot of the indigenous traditions from the north. So the US down to the south here and into Peru. And the general idea of the vision quest is to unlock your own medicine. And so it's a very intense 4 days and 4 nights. So it's 4 days, 4 nights, no food, no water. And you are sitting alone on a mountaintop or in the jungle or in the desert with maybe a plastic covering and a blanket, and that's it. And so you're there to pray and to meditate and whatever resonates with you to uncover your own medicine. So, I mean, you did your first one with me actually in January. Well, not like I was also doing I was in my second vision quest, because typically it's a 4-year commitment, and we were doing it under our mutual teacher, Obela Gloria, who is a wonderful, wonderful teacher and example here.
Yes, she is. Yes, she is. That was a beautiful experience. Um, Vision Quest is it's one of these initiation rites where you kind of feel again like that it's a part of the crazy woo woo stuff, like, go out into the middle of nature and just be still basically for 4 days, or not still, but in one place, basically in one spot, and for 4 days 4 nights without drink or water, drink or any meals. And like I remember like one doctor friend of mine saying like are you crazy, like 4 days without water, like that's extremely unhealthy, like you're gonna die. Like that's like there's a science proving that can't be healthy. And then I was when I jumped into the container, like I we traveled to the mountaintop, and we did it in this beautiful way where we were basically like in a line, and we were all like traveling as one tribe in a way, like in the forest, and everyone were put into their own places, and they were um, being given their prayers basically, and given like they were giving their own prayers to the space itself, and then sitting down. And when you sat down, I personally was like, okay, so what now? Like, what am I gonna do here for
Yeah.
4 days? And but then like I surrendered to it, and a lot of stuff started coming up, especially during the first day. I realized my ego was like a lot on the surface. My ego was going to my work, my ego was going to my relationship, and I was just like I was um confronted by all of these thoughts and emotions that were like still a little bit like unsettled. And that was the beauty of that, is that you are allowed to contemplate on your inside, your inner reality, like very deeply, because there's no one else, there's just you, and you can't leave. Well, you can leave, but then you're like really you don't
Yeah.
really like get the point. But you're sitting there by yourself, you're just meditating with the mosquitoes. The mosquitoes are coming at you from all directions, and like giving you a bloodbath of their own kind, and you're giving blood sacrifices to the forest in a way. And it's such a beautiful thing, I feel, to really step into it, like to allow it to take you where you're supposed to go. Like when you just sit there and you are allowing the thoughts to come, allowing the emotions to come, then you're already being guided to the right place. And
Mm.
for me, the vision side of the vision quest was during nighttime. Like I had such beautiful, like vibrant, like dreams. I had this small sliver of space where I could sleep. Like I had like the hill like was going in like incline, and there was this like small spot, like tick tick, like a little bit of a space to sleep there. So I didn't sleep much during the night times, but whenever I did sleep, I got some like okay, some precious like stuff coming up, and I was seeing dreams of I had one dream where I was experiencing, like I was basically like looking at the stars. It was nighttime, was dark, and I was looking at up in the sky, and then somehow I fell asleep during watching the stars, and then I just saw this like meteor, like this comet, like coming basically up past. I was like, oh my god, that's so cool. And then the comet turned, and it came like at me, and it turned into this like golden dragon who was like in flames, and he was like coming straight at me. And then it woke me up, and I was like, whoa, what is that?
What the
And
hell?
and I kind of like I didn't know how to integrate that like straight away. But then like next day, the whole day was this like beautiful journey of like 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 contemplating and pondering, like what is this energy, like where is this energy coming from, what is it trying to say to me. And like I started planning this whole like course for like energetics mastery, related to like the golden dragon being my guide, and how my like spirit animal whatever is like a like was guiding me to go into certain direction. And it was such a beautiful day of just like ideating and creating and whatever it was, and integrating just the energy of that element like inside of me. and my rest of the nights really like did the exact same thing. So every night I had dreams, like very vibrant dreams, and I felt like a little bit even conscious, like lucid, like in them. And then the next day I was like this ideating creation day,
Mm.
and like I got out of it, like I got out of Vision Quest. And this was the thing is that these are so personal. I heard like so many stories from everyone, and everyone had their personal like experiences. I was like there when I left like the Vision Quest, and my girlfriend and my baby like came to like basically grab me from there. They joined the crew who collected the people, and I saw them and I started like just bawling, like crying, like seeing them
Mm.
like were there. But then like my girlfriend asked me like, okay, so how do you feel? Like you seem good, you seem fine. And I was super good. Like I had actually like I had not felt hunger a lot. I felt the same during the whole 4 days. And really like the only concerning thing for me was that in the mornings when I had my morning like a discharge of pee, that it was incredibly yellow, and I was going like, okay, this doesn't look good, but it doesn't really bother me. Like body wise, I was completely fine. And my girlfriend asked me like, so how are you? Like what's going on? And I was like, I could do a couple of more days. I could
Yeah.
I could be here for a couple of more days. So it was really like really cool experience. I enjoyed a lot of it. Yeah.
Mm. I'm grateful for that story, man, that share. Yeah, so just to kind of summarize, we talked about a lot of energy and healing and trauma and plant medicines. If you could talk to a lot of the veterans that are watching this that haven't really experienced any of this, that are facing high levels of anxiety or depression or maybe anger or difficulty connecting, and they feel blocked off and unhappy, and they're not sure why, what would you tell them to orient them to this space, to guide them into things that they could do and why they should do them to better themselves?
Mm. Well, I feel that there's such a like very often when we are scared and we're living from fear, and usually the fear is coming from all of these traumas and wounds and whatnot. We feel fear of others, and we feel fear of being in community. We feel fear of even accepting that we have a problem. We feel fear that we're not we're not going to heal. We have fear that we're not enough, or we don't deserve love. We fear so many different things. I would really like challenge veterans to join these type of communities, whatever wherever they are, and and hopefully you will find people who can guide you to the right path, so that you can heal yourself, because healing happens by you. You can heal what you have inside of yourself. There is no one else that can do it for you. Someone can give you like an adjustment, like an emotional or spiritual adjustment, and that's great. But the actual healing, the inner work, like it helps that there's a
Mm.
guide to give you some like first steps and next steps and so on and so on. But then you need to take responsibility for what you have inside of you. And so really like tuning into community, uh allowing ourselves to accept that there is someone who can help us in that community. I feel that's and many people usually like in the community that you are building, like it is directed for like-minded people, like spirited people who are looking to solve these issues in their lives, but they are just afraid. So
Mm.
so really like stepping into that fear and allowing that fear to actually be your guide. So allowing that fear to say to you that yes, I have lived with this for such a long time. Yes, I want to do something with this. I'm ready now. So that's what the fear is kind of like blocking you from doing, saying that I am ready. But you can decide to allow that fear to simply be your guide and go like, yes, I feel fear, but I'm gonna go anyways. I'm gonna try anyways. I'm gonna see like what it feels like to be with men who are wanting to also heal, who are wanting to transform from a wounded space inside of myself to a healed space inside of me.
Mm. I love that, man. Dude, thank you for sharing your story and coming on. I think that this is going to be a great inspiration for people. If people are really resonating with uh, who you are and kind of how you approach problems, how can they get in touch with you and who do you want to work with?
So I mostly work with entrepreneurs. I work with also people who are like doing their 9 to 5 or are still like, successful professionals, for example, and they're looking to jump into something more meaningful, something more impactful for their life. So basically building their own business. So I help entrepreneurs and business owners to really get through their blocks so that they can get into that vision that I was mentioning in the beginning, that big vision that they have for themselves, and allowing that inner child that is existing inside all of us to also navigate, to help us navigate like through the different hurdles that we get in the way, because excitement and joy is sometimes very foreign for many people. To find fulfillment really happens when we tune into the heart. Like, if we are successful as entrepreneurs, if we have like a proven track record, great. But if you feel sad, if you feel unhappy, if you feel unfulfilled inside, then you are living as only half a man. So really,
Mhm.
I encourage people who are entrepreneurs or on the entrepreneurial path to get in touch so that we can remove those blockages and get you where you want to be.
I love that, man. And we'll put your contact information in the podcast show notes so that people can reach out to you. Amazing, brother. Great conversation, man. I'm gonna also,
Absolutely.
we can stay on a little bit longer, catch up and integrate, and I'll remove fireflies and stop the recording. And
Nice.
thanks for being a wonderful guest, brother.
Thank you for inviting me. It's my pleasure.